Welcome to the LearnOps Leadership Series. Today I'm very excited to be hosting Don Stopha, who's an award-winning learning expert with focus on people growth, talent management, leadership development, performance and needs analysis, all to maximize the return of investment on learning and development. Don's currently the Director of Learning and Development at Fanatics and is a former Senior Global L&D Leader from American Express as well. Welcome, Don.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Very excited to host you as well. Always fun to hear people's stories on how they got into learning and development. How did you fall into learning and development out of curiosity?
It's an interesting story. When I was first in college, I was going for something completely different. And in fact, I was interested in art and art history. I'm still interested in that, but as I was in my senior year of college, and I was working part-time for, at the time it was Merrill Lynch. And it just so happened I was working in the learning and development department there. So I in my graphic design background, I started there with doing things like doing graphics for their booths, their expo booths and marketing and things like that. And then one day, they said, wow, you'd be a really good facilitator. Do you want to start facilitating and doing things like that? So I just, I will never forget the first thing that I taught was teaching people how to use a mouse. And it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. But from there, it just, I just started to then teach. I was teaching how to use a computer. It was at the time we were using Macintosh. So it was, how to use a Macintosh and then how to use the different tools on a Macintosh. And then I started with new hire. And facilitating new hire, and at the time it was financial advisors, and so teaching financial advisors like the ins and outs of how to buy, sell stock, and different things like that. So then I started to design training, and then I just kind of went from there. So it's been an interesting road. And I've been doing everything from facilitation to coaching to, org development, design, and just a very, very diverse population, just very diverse industries. And then, I kind of went from financial services into travel at American Express, and just very different. Now I'm in sports. So it's been a great story. A great road for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And, going from your first facilitation on how to use the mouses to leading strategy, development, deployment for, multi-million-dollar learning solutions at the enterprise level. Some of the things that we've talked about before are, aligning learning and development to enhance performance, partner with corporate change, help to align, bottom line profitability. In your opinion, it looks like you're having successes in these areas. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges you've noticed in the industry over the last 7 years that might be holding learning and development, the function, back from achieving that as well?
I think we've seen a lot of different things, and I think one of the biggest areas of focus, or I guess areas where I've seen a lot of changes is the different generations in the workplace. We have now if I think about where I am today, we have all 5 generations in the workplace. Everybody learns differently. Everybody thinks about things differently. When you bring everybody together, it's a mishmash of people, and it's great. Everybody's different and diverse. But when you think about learning and how people learn, you have on one hand people over here who want to be in a classroom in front of an instructor, want that kind of professorial type, teach me in front of me, I have to see you. And then on the other side, you have the millennials and the Gen Ys and the people who want nothing to do with, I need to do it on my own time. I only have a couple minutes to do it. I want to search for everything I want to. So when you bring all that together, the combination doesn't work well. So we have to really figure out, how does everybody learn? Everybody's different, but how can we take that into one big meld or one big pot and figure out how people learn collectively together? And I think it's a combination. When you think about as adults, our attention span is less than 8 seconds. How do we take that for everyone, from this generation over here, from the Gen X's and the Gen, and move it over to have everybody at the same time collectively learn? And how can a baby boomer learn from a Gen Y or a millennial? How can they learn from that? And I think that's where we see maybe some lack of engagement in some areas, because we're not able to tap into that sort of area where people or knowledge is being transferred.
From a knowledge transfer strategy perspective, how would you incorporate that into overall learning operation strategy? Is it part of your formula for doing this successfully?
I would say yes. I mean, I would say that it's thinking about the future of learning and how people learn today. We've had to pivot quickly over the past couple of years, and we've had to really look at all the different types of learning and modalities, and really kind of add that to our repertoire, if you will, to say, now we can't be in the classroom all the time because we've had things happen. So let's take a look at where we are, how we can take those types of people and have them move into different types of learning, and how they can share best practices. So how can you millennials share your best practices to maybe help everyone else? And then, how does that translate into bottom line for any company today, in today's society, that will help, really with engagement and customer satisfaction and even employee satisfaction on so many different levels.
Since there's been a lot of change, are you seeing L&D teams structured differently today than in the past? And if so, like, what way are you seeing it now?
I am seeing it differently. It in the past, it used to be more where there would be separate lines of business. So it would be a team of facilitators, a team of instructional designers, a team of technology, a team of project managers, maybe on an L&D team. What I'm seeing now is that everyone's together and everyone wears many hats, which I think is a good thing on some aspects. And I think in some aspects, it also maybe challenges people a little bit more to have to learn differently, even from a learning perspective. When you're wearing many hats, you have to pick up and put down, especially if you're a designer. If I'm designing something on, emotional intelligence, and tomorrow I have to walk into the classroom or virtual classroom and maybe deliver on change management. So I'm having to really think about and compartmentalize those different things. So it's good that we're wearing many hats, but then it's also challenging. But I think it's also challenging those people in the learning space to think differently and to think outside of the box, which I think is needed in today's day and age.
With the designers designing specific learning solutions, I'm assuming that they're working with the subject matter experts to help with the different programming.
Mm-hmm. I think that is really key when you're thinking about designing and developing something that is outside of your knowledge space. I find that the challenge is that not everybody understands or knows what learning and development does. So from a business partner perspective, if we partner closely with them, with an internal business partner, who they come to me and they say, hey, I'd like to create a course on the the newest fabrics and what fabrics we're going to use to make a t-shirt. We're from a learning perspective, I know how to write objectives. I know how to measure success of a program. I know how to write a program, but I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of a fabric and what fabrics are needed to create an awesome t-shirt, or, a t-shirt that will have a logo on it or whatever. So that is where that partnership is. So I would design, develop, I would storyboard things, and then I would hand it over to them to say, review this. Does this make sense? Does this sound right? Is this the content that's needed? So I think that the partnership is it's important. It's imperative that we partner closely with those who are subject matter experts. That then the content or the training itself is one that then people will learn from or want to learn from. So that's more engaging and it's exciting. And when you have engagement and excitement, that's where learning transfers.
During the content review cycles, are you getting feedback from both of those categories that you described earlier, with the millennials versus, some of the boomers or whatnot, to get the combined perspective that you mentioned is needed?
Yeah, it's interesting. The feedback has been different. It's been different in that, there's a hesitation on one side to say, I don't know if I can do it this way, or I've not done it this way in the past. How can I change my habits, or how can I change my way of thinking? So I think when we think about the differences in learners, it's really helping the boomers to see, here's how they learn. Here's what you can do. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it in some people where, if I think about my parents and my kids who are in college, I smile when I think about the fact that my kids taught my parents how to use their iPhone, whatever version it is. And now my parents are like, hey, on TikTok, and they're on, different things. There are ways that we can show them and bring them together. There has to be an openness, though. And I think that in some cases there's not, but in some cases there are. And I think they just have to see it. And they have to see it from the perspective of the other people, of the other generations, to just see, hey, this is really cool. I can do this. I think it's a matter of just seeing it, thinking it, hey, I can do it. And open-mindedness, I guess, is a big thing as well.
And you mentioned something earlier, sometimes stakeholders or people in the company don't know what L&D does. So how do we get them to know what L&D does?
Most people think, when they come to me and say, hey, I need better communication on my team. What can you do for me? Or my team needs to better think about how they, their different personalities work together. How we, it's interesting because I'll get those different things where people, hey, I can deliver DISC, or I can deliver an MBTI assessment or something, and then facilitate. But when it comes to learning how to do the job, they automatically, from a business perspective, think, well, you don't know what that is, so why would I come to learning and development to help a new hire learn how to do the job? Here's why. So I think it's opening up their minds to the fact that, yes, you may have a coach and a mentor who can sit with them and teach them how to do the job, but what about the other things? What about the other things on keeping them engaged? What about career conversations and career growth? Those are the things that we do from a learning perspective. That's how we can help them want to learn, want a career path, want to grow their careers, want to think about the next levels and the next steps. And so it's a process, and it's also an education. What I've done that has helped in a lot of areas is really sit down with people. I've also gone into team meetings with a presentation. Here's who learning and development is. Here's who I am. Here's what I do. Here's how I can help you. And it's helping them to think about that they're subject matter experts in what they do. They know their job. They know what their brand is. I know what my brand is, and they're separate. So here's how you can think about here how I can help you and how I can help your teams become more engaged in what they do and involved in the job.
And so what's the key to the partnership? So, people know about learning and development, right? Because you mentioned they come to us and ask for this. So what's the key to those partnerships? How are you managing the partnerships so that it's not the whole company coming to you? Are there, what's the strategy there for the intake of those requests, for example? Who gets to make the requests? What is your partnership strategy?
So the partnership is key. You have to have, so for example, I can't be a partner to everyone within the company. The key to that is that we have relationships so that each area within the learning and development team focuses on a specific business. I think it's important just to do that because we all have to have those relationships, and you have to maintain a relationship. You can't be all things to all people, like you said. Especially when we're intaking something. We have a process right now where we are intaking manually. And so when we think about the intake process, we have to get better at that. If it's frustrating, or if a business partner doesn't know where to go, what to do, or how to bring in a process, they're not going to do it. So then we're potentially going to lose a customer. And that's where then all the work that we've done up front to say, here's learning and development, here's what we do, here's what we can do for you. If they're frustrated up front, they're going to say, okay, well, we'll go somewhere else. We're going to take our business somewhere else, or we'll do it internally, or we'll do it by ourselves. So I think that process has to be lock and step, and it has to be an easy process.
For sure. And we've talked about this, obviously. How do you transform manual processes to get the business value out of it, for sure. And so I'm excited about that for you guys, for sure, because there's so much data behind these requests that can help you prioritize and push back where you need to with business partners, of course, too, by visually showing them, hey, we need to spend resources here because it ties back to this business impact, which, might be the priority versus, maybe the communication request that's coming through the channel or something.
It's true.
So in that regard, you have let's talk about that. Obviously learning and development teams have been challenged a bit from not being able to have the right technology to operationalize things without like disparate systems or whatnot. What are some of the other big operating challenges within L&D that you're currently seeing?
So I think some of the other challenges we have is just the environment and the growing environment. And I think that if we think about just everything today and the challenges outside of what we can affect, it kind of comes and people internalize things. I think what happens today is that everything that's happening in the world comes into the workplace, and it's tough because then you come into work and you think about all these other things. How do I do my job when I'm thinking about all these things that are happening out here? So when we think about us at work, we really have to help people think about your career. What are you doing today? What's your priorities? How can you help the company attain their goals, and how can you help? It's really helping them to think about all these other things. You got to leave them at the door. When you come into work, let's have some fun. Let's think about what we can do today and how we can help the company be the best that they can be.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Yesterday, I met with Carson, who's the head of learning experience design at Salesforce, and we during the interview we were talking about lifestyle design, and so that's really interesting that you brought that up too. You know, um, when you look at L&D versus other business functions, do you think operationally L&D is running as efficient and as effective as it can be? Like where do you see the immediate improvements that can be made for the industry? As an industry, if the industry got together to solve the top three priority problems, like what do you think those would be? How can L&D become better?
I think we're getting there, and I think that the L&D industry is doing a much better job than we did with understanding people and how people learn. I think there's some industries that do it better than others, but I think we're all coming on board now. I was just having this conversation yesterday with someone. When you're in a room full of learning and development people, it's so invigorating because everybody's got the same challenges and everybody has the same way of thinking and they all want to fix everything. But I think what now with social media and with the opportunities to network and to really talk to people and share best practices, you're finding now that what you're doing isn't as bad or as challenging as what you may have thought it would be. I think when we think about today's learners and the modern learner of today, and how people learn is really quick. People want quick. People want to Google search for something, and I think we're doing that now. We're giving them that. We're giving them the opportunity to search for something that is microburst learning, that is going to give them the opportunity to quickly view something that will get them to start thinking about things differently, and then also to really create excitement around different areas of focus. And we're doing that a lot more than we were. And I think the pandemic really helped us to, not helped us, it actually forced us to think differently because we had to. We had to quickly think about how can we send people home, and they're gonna have to learn from their computers because we can't bring people together. So I think that kind of forced us into a different area, and now we're almost there where we're thinking everyone's in the same boat.
As unfortunate as the pandemic is and has been, I think for learning and development, it was really, really interesting because it really, for a lot of teams who weren't yet there, it forced them to think like product managers, where, they had to think about outcomes first. How do we solve real problems for the business? And there was no time. There was real urgency. Offices shut down. We need to train people how to work from home. How do we do that? What do we need to train them on? So right away, it went to the outcome. What do we need to train them on? And then let's prioritize those things because there's no time to, make it look better. Some stuff we might have to buy off the shelf to get the job done. So it really, really showed the learning and development industry that everybody has these natural skills to prioritize, to be outcome driven, to make trade-offs because you can't do everything. There's not enough time. And, I think it's really important for the industry to keep that in mind, the urgency, the product management kind of skill set, the urgency for around business priorities, and continue to work like that. And one of the things we're seeing is how do you operationalize the data side so that at least we can show the value of the work to justify budgets, justify the $1 million programs, things like that. I mean, how have you seen other people or other learning experts do this when it comes to ROI, capture the right data sets? Any tips or tricks that or recommendations on what to collect, what data to focus on?
I think it's very important to your point. We've always had to, from a learning perspective, we've always had to prove our worth because of budgeting and things that not every company, not every organization is pro learning. So we've always had to do that, where we've had to really think about how can we best prove what we're doing because it's not, we don't, we're not making things. We're not making t-shirts. We're the learning team showing people how to do their job, but we're not actually in there doing it. So what we've seen, or what I've seen over the past couple of years, is really showing from a learning perspective how learning has increased employee engagement, reduced attrition, from a new, even an onboarding and new hire perspective, because of so many jobs today being open, and this company is you can go here and make $1 more, or get a signing bonus. So what we've been doing is really showing people what the company is worth through new hire and through different things. So we're able to reduce attrition, increase customer satisfaction, which is kind of that net promoter score, if you will, and then also employee engagement. We've done over the past couple of years engagement surveys, and you can see we take data from that and say, we heard you. You said this in the employee engagement survey. We heard you. Here's what we're doing to help fix that, or to close gaps, or to bridge gaps in different areas. So I think those are the really big items that, from an investment perspective, those are the things that will help companies, or should help companies, think about in attracting and also retaining top talent in those areas from a learning.
And I love that you talked about, net promoter scores, and it's great to see the industry really adopting best practices from other functions in the business as well, like customer success, like product management, like project management, data analytics, with versus simply, looking at like smile sheets, which we've seen a lot historically, right? There's better ways to develop skills faster in L&D by just looking at your colleagues and peers from different functions, whether it's marketing, customer success, product, finance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this information exists inside of the company to like take practices and better operationalize L&D as well. So I love that you talked about that. So the big question then, if L&D is getting better, and we're seeing better partnerships and better adoption of processes, like, in your opinion, how do we get better alignment with the CFO, the CEO, the C-suite, so that they, just like during the pandemic, when companies saw that L&D really stepped up to help solve these like next day issues, how do we continue to maintain that and those relationships and give them that transparency in the impact that L&D is having on the business?
It's a great question. I think they need to see it firsthand. They need to see, not only from a dashboard perspective or a metric perspective on paper what we've done, they need to see it. We need to be able to show them what our worth is, whether it's from an in-person presentation to say, here's what we've done, here's some of the things that we've excelled at from a learning perspective. And it's also, there's a lot to be said for advocates. It's people who have taken a class, or have gone through and taken a course, or have experientially learned from something that we've done, to stand up and say, hey, CFO, or hey, CEO, I just did this from the L&D team, and it changed this, and this for me, or it increased my engagement, or I was thinking about going to a different company, but because of this, I'm not now. So I think there's a lot to be said for those. And we do have advocates, but I think we have to keep those people close to us. And also, kind of gain more traction in those areas where those are the people who can help us, to say, not only, us, standing up to say, here's what we're doing, but it's also other people. It's other people that are invested in learning, to help. It's those pro learning people that can help change us.
No, that's really interesting. And I'm curious, how do you see technology playing a part in all of
So technology is key to everything that we do, from what we use to design and develop to, intake to, everything. And I think when you think about end to end, when you think about, the intake process to discovery analysis all the way to implementation, technology is throughout the entire process. And if we're gonna keep up with the modern learner, like I talked about, and those the newer generations, they're all about technology. It has to be automated. There has to be things that we're doing that keeps up with that, that can keep everybody on board, entertained, engaged, and that all has to do with technology, end to end.
This has been really fun, really insightful. For the audience, is there any last last suggestions that you would want people to think about, or that they should be thinking about with their own learning and development operational strategy?
I was thinking about this from when we started. It's your learning and development team you're only as good as the people that work for you and that work within the learning team. If you have a team of people who are amazing at what they do and that are passionate about learning, you're gonna go really far. And the team here that we have here they're amazing. They're an amazing group of people who are passionate about everything that we do, including thinking about the latest technology trends, what we can bring in, how we can help people and engage people. And I think that's key. Your team and the team of people that you have are the ones that are going to help you in every aspect of every realm of learning. It's a team of people that help you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And well said. I mean, you can't have great operations without great. Well, Don, this has been extremely fun. I'm really excited that you were able to invest time with us today and share your thought leadership, and can't wait to post this so that everybody can learn from it.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing. It's been so much fun. I really, really appreciate the time and just having to get my thoughts together and out. And so thank you, Ryan. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching the LearnOps Leadership Series. For more episodes like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And visit us at Cognota.com. That's Cognota.com.